In 1990, Pavel Ivanov, a Soviet engineer, worried about finding his son a pair of winter boots that would last a season. By 1992, he worried about finding his son a piece of bread. His life savings, thousands of rubles, painstakingly accumulated over 2 decades, could no longer buy a single loaf. Pavel's story isn't fiction. It's the reality for millions who lived through the collapse of the Soviet Union. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're exploring what daily life actually looks like for ordinary people during and after societal collapse. Not the Hollywood version, but the real experiences of families who have lived through the breakdown of complex societies. And I chose that topic for no particular reason at all. None. Before we go further, let's be clear about what we mean by societal collapse. We're not talking about a single apocalyptic event. Instead, societal collapse is a process. The breakdown of the institutions, infrastructure, and systems that make a complex society function. It's what happened when the Soviet Union dissolved, leaving its citizens to navigate a completely transformed world. It's what occurred during the fall of the Western Roman Empire, when centralized authority gradually crumbled. Today we will follow one statistically representative family, the Ivanovs, through the 5 distinct phases of the Soviet collapse. We will examine how the simple act of getting food transformed from an inconvenience into a daily struggle, and explore what historical patterns can teach us about building resilience. This is not a video about an impending doomsday, it's about understanding human adaptability when the systems we take for granted break down. To make these abstract concepts tangible, let's meet the Ivanov family, a household representing the statistical and social reality of the late Soviet era. First, we have Pavel. He's 35 years old and an engineer at a state-owned heavy machinery plant. He's a skilled professional who takes pride in his contribution to the Soviet industrial project. His job provides the family not only with their primary income, but also their state-allocated apartment. Next is Anna. Anna is 32 and she teaches at her local school. She is highly educated and very dedicated to her job. Also, she's managing the household's complex logistics in a world of scarcity, while also shaping the next generation of Soviet citizens, which is Mikhail and Sofia. Mikhail is 12 years old. He is a bright student and a member of the Young Pioneers, the official youth organization of the state party. His life is a structured mix of school, state-organized extracurriculars, and helping his mother navigate the daily challenges of acquiring household goods. Sofia is 8. She's an energetic elementary school student who is also destined to be a young pioneer. Her world is defined by the concrete courtyards of their apartment complex and the close-knit community of neighbors. The Ivanovs aren't special, and that's exactly the point. They are products of the Soviet system, educated, employed, and housed by the state. Before the final collapse, their life was what was considered normal. Pavel works his shifts at the plant. Anna teaches. They live in a standardized 2-room apartment in a concrete panel building, identical to thousands of others. But their normal already contains the seeds of the coming crisis. The biggest worry isn't paying bills. Rent is negligible. Utilities are subsidized. The primary daily struggle is the shortage economy. Anna doesn't simply go to a supermarket. She spends hours a week in queues. Relies on a network of friends for tip-offs about rare deliveries of meat or butter, and understands that getting anything of quality depends less on money and more on who you know. This constant grinding effort to turn rubles into actual goods is the backdrop of their entire existence. Phase 1. Pre-collapse warning signs. The first phase is not a sudden shock, but a slow, grinding deterioration. For the Ivanovs, the familiar shortages begin to worsen dramatically. At his factory, Pavel sees the cracks forming in the plant economy. Shipments of raw materials become erratic, causing production lines to halt for days at a time. The state's promise of meeting quotas feels increasingly hollow. For Anna, the daily hunt for food becomes more desperate. The state-run stores, once reliably stocked with staples like bread, milk and cabbages, are now frequently bare. To manage the scarcity, the government introduces rationing coupons known as talents, or
talon,
for basic goods like sugar, soap and sausage. The family's monthly allotment is barely enough. The black market, once a source for luxuries, is now essential for necessities, but at prices that strain their budget. The physical infrastructure of their city is also decaying. Power outages become more frequent, plunging their apartment block into darkness. Public buses run less reliably. These are not the signs of a coming apocalypse. They are the mundane, frustrating symptoms of a system slowly bleeding out. The psychological challenge is uncertainty. The old promises of Soviet stability are clearly failing, but no one knows what will replace them. Most people, including the Ivanovs, simply try to adapt, hoarding what they can and hoping for the best. The system has always been difficult, but it always has endured. Why would now be different? Phase 2. Initial breakdown. Then, the political foundation shatters. The failed coup in August 1991 accelerates the Union's disintegration. On December 25, 1991, the Soviet Union is formally dissolved. The centralized command economy that managed everything from Pavel's factory to the bread distribution in the city evaporates. The consequences are immediate and catastrophic. Pavel's plant, its supply chains and state contracts now meaningless, closes its doors, laying off its entire workforce. He, along with thousands of his colleagues, is suddenly unemployed in a country with no system of unemployment benefits. On January 2nd, 1992, the new Russian government implements shock therapy, lifting Soviet-era price controls overnight. The result is hyperinflation. Prices for basic goods multiply tenfold, then hundredfold. The Ivanovs' life savings of 5,000 rubles, once enough to buy a car, are rendered worthless in a matter of weeks. Anna's teaching salary, when it's paid at all, is months late and can barely buy groceries for 2 days. Money itself has become a trap. Any rubles they get must be spent immediately before they lose more value. The social fabric unravels. With the state's authority gone, crime rates soar. Medical care, once free but inefficient, is now simply unavailable. The schools close intermittently. The Ivanovs realize they are completely on their own. Phase 3. Survival mode. This is the most dangerous period. Formal institutions have failed, but new ones have not yet formed. For the Ivanovs, the crisis becomes existential. With the factory closed, they receive an eviction notice. Their state-provided apartment was a benefit of Pavel's job. No job, no home. They face an impossible choice: become homeless in a chaotic city or flee. Like millions of others, they chose internal migration. They pack what they can carry and take a train to Anna's childhood village, several hundred kilometers away, moving in with her elderly parents. Their small wooden house now shelters 3 generations. This move fundamentally changes their strategy for survival. In the city, Pavel's engineering degree was his primary asset. In the village, it's his practical ability to fix a tractor or wire a generator. He barters these skills not for money, but for tangible goods: a sack of potatoes, firewood, a canister of gasoline. Anna's role transforms as well. Her teaching skills are secondary to her new expertise in food production and preservation. She and her mother work tirelessly in the family's small garden plot, their dacha. This acre of land is no longer a weekend hobby. It is their lifeline. The potatoes, carrots, beets and cabbages they grow and preserve for the winter are what stands between the family and starvation. The children's world is upended. 12-year-old Mikhail is no longer a young pioneer. He is a farmhand responsible for fetching water and helping with the harvest. 8-year-old Sofia learns to identify edible mushrooms and helps her grandmother pickle vegetables. The education is no longer in the classroom, but in the field. In this new world, the most valuable currency is not the ruble, but social capital. The family survives because they are part of a community network built on mutual obligation and trust. They share their harvest with their neighbor, who in turn helps repair their roof. Isolation means destitution. Community means survival. Phase 4. Adaptation period. Gradually out of the chaos, new patterns of social and economic life emerge. This isn't a return to the old normal, but an adaptation to a new reality. The village has become a self-sufficient microeconomy, operating largely on barter and informal credit. Pavel is now the undisputed village mechanic. His reputation is his security. He doesn't receive a wage, but he has built up a store of social credit with dozens of families. When his family needs help, the community provides it. Anna, along with other educated women in the village, organized an informal school in his spare room, ensuring the children don't lose their literacy. She teaches in exchange for milk from a neighbor's cow or eggs from another's chickens. Her role has shifted from state employee to community pillar. The economy that emerges rewards practical skills above all else. The ability to grow food, repair equipment, provide basic medical care, and maintain social harmony. The abstract credentials of the Soviet era have been replaced by the tangible value of what a person can contribute to the collective well-being. Phase 5. New Normal. Years of the initial shock, a new stability takes hold, though it is a life of greatly reduced material complexity. The Ivanovs and their community have adapted to a world with less, but one where their roles and relationships are more direct and meaningful. Life remains physically demanding, but the constant gnawing anxiety of the early 90s has been replaced by the predictable routines of a rural, self-reliant existence. The trauma of the collapse, what Russians would come to call the wild 90s, has left a permanent psychological scar. It instilled a deep-seated distrust of official institutions and a profound reliance of informal networks that persist to this day. The children, now young adults, possess a completely different worldview from their parents. They are resilient, practical, and understand that security comes not from the state, but from their skills and their community. This new normal isn't better or worse than their old life, it's fundamentally different. It is more physically challenging, but also more socially connected. Material comforts are few, but community bonds are strong. Let's put this transformation in perspective. For the Ivanovs, the most basic needs became all-consuming challenges. Before, clean water was a turn of a handle. After, it was a 2-hour daily chore of hauling buckets from the village well and boiling every drop to ensure it was safe. A trip to the state store, however frustrating, is replaced by hundreds of hours of planting, weeding, harvesting and preserving fruit from their dacha. Their diet becomes monotonous but life-sustaining. Potatoes, cabbages, bread and whatever else they can grow or trade for. A serious infection, once treatable with a state-supplied antibiotic, becomes a life-threatening emergency. The family relies on Anna's knowledge of herbal remedies and the community's pooled resources for any medical crises. Central heating is a distant memory. Their life is governed by the daily quest for firewood to heat their small home and cook their meals. Pavel's skill in keeping a small generator running makes him a vital community asset. The Ivanov story, rooted in the specific history of the Soviet collapse, offers a universal lesson about the systemic fragility. It helps us identify concerning trends in any complex society. So what can we learn about practical resilience? The first and most brutal lesson from the Ivanovs' experience is that financial assets are the most fragile. True wealth in a crisis is functional. It's not a number on a screen, it's social capital, skill capital, and material capital. Your resilience strategy should focus on building these forms of functional wealth which hold their value when traditional money fails. When the system that provides for us disappears, we must provide for ourselves and our community. Abstract, specialized knowledge becomes less valuable than broad, practical competence. Can you maintain a small, productive garden? Can you preserve food through canning, drying, or pickling? Can you fix a leaky pipe? Can you perform basic maintenance on a vehicle or a small engine? Can you sharpen a knife or an axe? A professional medical system is resource intensive. Basic proficiency in first aid, wound care, and knowing how to manage common illnesses without immediate access to a doctor is a life-saving skill set. The ability to mend clothes, patch a tear, or sew a button might seem trivial, but it extends the life of critical resources when new items are unavailable. Your resilience is proportional to the strength of your local network. Get to know your neighbors. Be the person who organizes a block party or a tool-sharing library. Help others without expecting an immediate return. You are building the social trust and mutual obligation that becomes the de facto economy and support system when formal institutions are gone. The collapse of the Soviet Union caused tremendous suffering, a catastrophic fall in living standards and a demographic crisis. The key insight from the Ivanovs experience is that when complex systems fail, life is forced to reorganize at a human scale. The economy becomes local, trust becomes personal, value is measured in what you can do for the people around you. While materially simpler and physically more demanding, this life need not be one of despair. It is often a return to fundamental human principles of cooperation, practical competence, and mutual care. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. If this topic resonated with you, let me know in the comments. This was simply a topic that was interesting to me. I wondered for a long time what actually happened to the people during those times. And what I found is terrifying, in a sense that change can be quite abrupt sometimes, and change is scary. At times it even sounded like it must have felt end-timey for those people. I'm grateful I live in a world where this is not a real concern. So yeah, see you. Bye bye.